Is this mic on? If people can hear me, good. My voice is obviously a little cracked. I don't know if it's from talking or staying up late, one of the two. I'm Tom Doherty. I have worn many hats over the years, but for the last 5, I've been the Director of New Technology Initiatives for HTSA. Primarily, my focus is helping our group, but also the industry as a whole, and vendors that have embraced the CI channel as a new vertical for their manufacturers. So I want to introduce our panelists. On the left here is Victor Menendez. He's with Crestron, and he serves as the lead product manager for residential solutions. In the middle here is David Warfel. He's a little more famous than these other guys because he's on videos all the time, but in any case, he still deserves an introduction. He's with Light Can Help You, and he is maybe the coolest title, Chief Evangelist of Light. And then on the far right here, we have Gerald Lynch. Gerald Lynch is also a fascinating person. Gerald comes from a very high-tech background, but at one point he started an integration company called System 7. They operate in the New England, Boston area. He then acquired a top distributor lighting showroom known as Wolfers, and then finally acquired Boston Shade. So here we have a super strong integrator that touches all these things that the people that are viewing this are interested in. We have David, who has been leading the charge to help the industry learn and understand lighting design, and assist dealers in this channel to be able to deliver better lighting for their own clients. And then finally, our friend here, Victor, has also a deep product manufacturing background and is leading Crestron as they develop very innovative lighting fixtures. So, this title of this session is Succeeding in Lighting Fixtures, and it's obviously impossible to communicate how to be successful in the lighting category in 30 minutes. But I assure you, by the end of this, there will be things that are said by the group that will be valuable and worthwhile, and you'll know people to reach out to in the future. So as we talked about putting this discussion together, we all got on a Zoom call and, how to be successful in the lighting category. Well, okay, what does that mean? It's lots of things. But one of the things that really resonated is Victor said, what we want to convey is how can an integrator how can you become a lighting influencer on your projects with your clients? Your clients don't think of you often, or mostly. Builders, clients, architects, they think of you as the AV person. Yes, you've been doing lighting control. Yes, you've been doing shades, but you're going to design the lighting now. You're going to provide fixtures on the project. And so this is talking about how to be thought of by your clients, by your trade partners, as an important lighting influencer. So to start off, I'm going to start off asking Victor, what is the first thing you need to figure out to sell light fixtures or to become a lighting influencer?
Thank you, Tom. So prior to Crestron, I owned a little company called EX Design Group, and just so you guys know, I was really a shady guy before I was a lighting guy. I was in a lighting business, and no pressure.
You were a shady guy.
Shady guy before I was a lighting guy. So I actually sold shades. I was big into shading. And what other component in shading? What other component? It's natural daylighting, right? So I got into artificial lighting. So, for me to get into artificial lighting, the biggest challenge for me was, how do I get it to market? The tools of the trade, learning about, keywords like photometrics and optics. I had no idea what any of those things are. So that, it was the first thing I did. I figured out how, in fact, how lighting works, how to control lighting, figure out the tools of the trade. There's regulatory things, and then I used them to my advantage to figure out how to become a lighting influencer. And we sold a lot of lighting. We got involved in both commercial and residential projects. We learned how to do what I called sheets. That's what my deliverable. I had had a low voltage sheet, we had a dimension sheet, we had a like a photometry sheet, and that's what our deliverable was. And we sold lighting, and I had sold my business since then, but there's still a pretty good strong group here locally in the DFW area. So you got to learn the tools of the trade.
Right. So what is the most significant feature shift in lighting fixtures today, and what is it that feature's tied to?
So yeah, I got to be careful I don't offend anybody, but over in the last 30 years, how many innovations have happened in lighting? Up until 2008, the biggest thing in lighting was what? What? Decorative. So think about where I came from, a controls company. Dimming, right? That was the biggest technology. I should probably crush it in a little bit, but what were the 3 biggest innovations in lighting in the past 30 years? We had controls, right? What happened in 2008 to lighting?
Oh, energy efficiency and the
Energy
LED.
efficiencies, LEDs. Now, what's the biggest thing that's going on with lighting?
I didn't think there was going to be a test.
That's okay. Rangeable CCT, right? And we're talking about this whole wellness, being able to take, those are big things. And what is that tethered to? What are those, what is rangeable CCT tethered to? Controls, that's right, Crestron, that's right. So, and is it just lighting? No, it's the whole thing, right? It's lighting, it's music, it's temperature, it's the whole 9 yards.
Right.
So it's a big shift in the industry. It's not just now lighting, it's a whole experience, right? So how do you sell that experience? And I'm gonna show you here in a minute.
So I think you want to ask a question. There is a test, so what's your question here?
So how many of you guys can sell a $1,200 fixture? Figures. No pressure, by the way. My old boss is in the room, which I voted him being one of the most stimulated bosses, Rick Should, and my current boss is in the room too, but so Doug Jacobson. So no pressure, but I used to sell stereos, and I couldn't sell you a $1,000 speaker system, but you know what? I could take you outside and crank up a stereo and lose your hearing, and I do have the hearing aids to prove it, and I could sell you a $30,000 stereo. So what about lighting? How do you sell lighting? Are you really going to try to sell a $1,200 fixture, or are you going to sell an experience? So
right.
Let me show you.
So with that, the man behind the curtain, please roll 2 very short videos. So Victor, discuss the value of the videos and what you can sell.
So, those are one form, but the most important point I'm trying to get across, it's not selling a $1,200 fixture, it's selling experience. Even like a shade, I never could sell a $1,500 shade, but I could sell a $30,000 experience. With tunable lighting, rangeable CCT, there's a lot more to sell than just the lights. You have sound, climate, so it's the whole package. Now, selling a whole package is much easier than trying to sell a $1,200 light.
Okay. Jerry, I want your perspective on things. What did you think would happen to your business, and what happened to it when you embraced lighting?
Sure, thank you very much. And I think Victor has it completely correct. What got me into the business was we were big into controls, we were big into shades, and we had this problem that every time we sold a system, there was a compatibility issue with the fixtures. And so it dragged us into fixtures in the beginning, but in the end, the truth is that it's the whole experience, the fixtures with the shades, with the controls. And today's lighting technology requires controls to get the most out of it. I always say, it's kind of a silly way to say it, but if you want a light to dim, you need a dimmer. And if you want LED lights to do what they can do today, you need controls, and so they go hand in hand. I really think that's what got me into fixtures. And when I first got into it about 5-6 years ago, I thought it would be another category we add to the mix. But it's changed our business completely. It's been transformative, and I feel like I'm almost more in the lighting business now than I am an audio video integrator. And sometimes we say that I used to sell audio video and add lighting and shades. I think that's what the industry is thinking is next. But really now we lead with lighting and shades and add audio video. And it's been transformative for our business. 6 years ago when I got into this, 20% of my business was lighting controls. And today, 20% of my business is AV. And we're not a small company, so that's a big number and a big shift for us. I thought it would be one more category, but it's not. It's a whole new way of looking at your business. It's a whole new way of engaging with your customers. And it's been transformative and positive for our business.
So, talk to us about, what has been the result of the lighting transformation? I mean, you touched on it, but
Sure.
Go a little deeper with this.
Sure. In a nutshell, it's really easy. We went from being a subcontractor doing AV systems to being part of the design team. And so, that meant that we got into better projects earlier with a larger audience, and we represented a more important slice of the pie than we used to. I used to go to meetings in the beginning, and there'd be a large group at the table, and then they'd say, oh, the audio video guy's here, and half the table would get up and leave, and I'd sit down with the rest.
Right.
And now we come to the beginning of the meeting because we're the lighting and shading guys, and everyone wants to hear what we do. And we've become more interactive with the architects and the interior designers and the end users, and that bottom line means we get into more projects, better projects, earlier in the process, and we're a more important partner to our trade partners and our end user customers.
That's been for the integrators that have really truly embraced, invested, committed to the category. That is universal. Being notified by builders, interior designers, architects about projects much earlier than you used to be notified.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's also something that now it's compelling in that it's a lot harder to get somebody to come to your showroom or engage with you, and no offense to the AV world, but hey, I've got this new surround sound 8K, 50K projector. But when you talk about lighting, they're coming to your showroom and they're having meetings, and that is universal also. So people that have invested in knowing about it, being able to demonstrate it, it's a major differentiator and one that keeps you relevant in your space. So David, in addition to designing lighting across the continent, literally, your team has developed education specific to this channel. There's been lighting design training, but up until now, there hasn't been, up until a few years, there hasn't been anything focused on the AV channel. Can you summarize what integrators need to know to get started?
Wow, yes.
Or maybe you can't summarize.
Right, to summarize what integrators know to get started, I think it depends on what your role is in the company. So, for example, for the business owner or the person making the decisions, what you need to know is that this is an enormous opportunity and you don't want to miss it, right? So it's like inspiring the business owner and the decision maker to invest in the category, as you mentioned earlier. I was running the numbers before a session earlier this week, and I currently estimate the impact of lighting fixtures on this industry as somewhere in the neighborhood of $6.9 billion annually. That's the opportunity. That's the size of the opportunity, and that's like a $15 million category for 500 integrators. Like, that's a lot of money. There's a lot of opportunity in this category, and every time I do those numbers, 3 weeks later, I realize I left something out, like landscape lighting, and I missed another $1 billion of opportunity. So it's huge, and the business owner needs to know that. And the sales team needs to be inspired. They need to believe in it, and they need to, they're much more capable of selling something if they believe in it. So as Victor said, who's going to sell a $1,200 downlight? That's a really bad idea. If they believe in the experience and the power to help people live better lives with light, then they can sell a better experience. And by the way, that's a $1,200 downlight. And that comes later, that comes second. So you have to put the fixture after the experience. And then, of course, there's a fair amount of nuts and bolts that the support folks will need to learn in terms of the sort of the science and technology behind it all to put it all together. So the teams that are procuring the fixtures, answering the contractors' questions, making field visits, et cetera, there's another level of education or knowledge that they need to know. And I think sometimes what I see as a major hurdle is the business owner trying to get all of that before they're comfortable taking a step forward, when they really only need that first part and their team members need the other stuff. And that means, I've talked to dealers like, oh, we've been looking at this for, 3 or 4 years. I'm like, well, there's, $5 million you left on the table at least. How much is that worth to you?
Right. So what do you see as the biggest limiting factors? What's the hardest thing, the biggest limiting factor that integrators need to tackle to be successful, to be an influencer in this category?
Well, at first I thought the biggest challenge was the lack of knowledge, was education. It was like the integrators don't know what they don't know, so we have to fill in some of that. We looked at all of the educational offerings that are out there, and they didn't really know what an integrator was when that education was created, so it's not tuned to the integrator. It doesn't speak to what the integrator needs to know. But lately, Tom, I think maybe fear is the biggest reason why this is not already a multi-billion-dollar category in the CEDIA channel. I think it's fear. Lighting isn't. It's something new. It's something that most people haven't dealt with beyond the control side. So they don't know that 4 cans and a fan really isn't a good experience. It's just the way every house ever is built. And there's a knowledge gap there, but then there's just that recognition of, oh, I don't know if I want to get into this. And the dealers we see being the most successful are the ones that, let's just call them courageous, and they're like, I think this is going to be a big thing. I'm jumping in with both feet. And they lose money on the first project. I think, I think I stole this from you, right? They lose money on the first one, break even on the second one. The third one pays for the first one. That's a Tom Doherty quote, right? And then from there on out, it's profit.
I mean, that was me. I'm not as smart as everybody out there, and I tend to crash and burn a few times. I just go for it. And
well, Tom, as an integrator, I can agree. The first job, or maybe the first 3, are tuition.
Tuition?
Tuition. That's what we call it.
Yeah, you lose money and more on the
I
first
like
one,
that.
maybe 1, 2, and 3, and then you start making money.
So David, you and your company, Light Can Help You, you certainly qualify as an influencer. I've seen it. But how did you get there? How would you say that? How did you become a lighting influencer with the channel?
Well, blind, stupid luck. Well, so it seems to me there's 2 ways you can become an influencer. You can be really smart and really dedicated to it, figure out all the social media, all that kind of stuff, or you can just try to help people. And I'm not smart enough to create the social media platform and to do all of that kind of stuff. So I had to do it the only way I could, which was to just basically give away knowledge, give away experience, try to help people and say, hey, there's a dealer. I met my first integrator 7 years ago. Like, he needed some help with lighting, so I helped him with lighting. If I put that stuff out there, and as an influencer, I started blogging just to think through ideas and share ideas, and that just gets out there. And then every once in a while, that turns into work, and then that turns into an invitation to speak, and then that turns into an invitation to go to an architect's thing, and all of a sudden, you're reading your name in print, and it's a lot of fun. Right.
So, you have not a terribly unique thing here, but you have a unique thing here in that you're talking to dealers that are getting into this, and you're helping them through the process, and you've observed what seems to work more successfully than the others. The Tom Doherty approach of just diving in and, kamikazing isn't necessarily a good advice. But in your mind, what is the first step dealers should take in getting into the fixture category? What do you believe to be the first step to be successful in lighting?
Well, if you're asking me, I say sign up with us, right? And our company, Light Can Help You, becomes the in-house lighting team, basically, your services team. But I think what I'm really saying is get some help. If you don't know the category, get somebody who can help you understand it, whether that's through one of the buying groups, like coming to the events that Tom puts together, going to Lightapalooza, taking some of the training, those kinds of things.
Plug, I promise.
You told me $20. What? Yeah. Getting involved in see where other people are learning, and if you can, find a dealer who's doing it, and in a non-competitive market, the other side of the country, and ask them if they'll have coffee with you and give you some advice, because I think the peer-to-peer mentorship between dealers, it's Tom and I talk until we're blue in the face about what to do. Somebody comes up, like Gerard says, hey, this is how I did it as a dealer. That's incredibly valuable, the experience that the dealers who are already successful have.
And years ago, there weren't that opportunity. There weren't people that you could lean on and ask. There wasn't David. This is a brand new category in this channel, but now it's maturing rapidly, and there's a lot of peers that that are having success. I couldn't agree more that best to learn from other people's experiences, and plenty of people will tell you and help you in this channel. This channel, we compete, but in many ways we really want. CEDIA was formed such that we could all learn from each other, and we could raise the professionalism of what we were doing and to get better and better and better. And that's what I am trying to do in helping do my part in leading this category amongst the industry. I have a full-time job. I want to help my members first, but I know by helping the industry and helping the other vendors that it's just better to have everybody in this channel knowing what they're doing. And now we have an opportunity there's lots of data points and lots of people you can talk to. We're running close to the end here. I like no particular order, and we can go past our time, but what are some closing thoughts that you might have? Victor, Gerald, anybody want to just jump and speak? Any closing thoughts, and then we can open it up if there's any questions out there amongst the thousands and thousands of people that are watching this event on the third day of CEDIA.
Now, I don't have. If you are going to get in this category, again, learn about what you're doing. Work in your home. Try it in your house. Try it in your garage. The first fixture job I ever did, I laid it on a floor and wired it up, and programmed my scenes and my rooms and my groups, and before I went out to a house. Now, have I ever had to tear a ceiling out because I did it wrong? Yes, probably 2 or 3 ceilings. But I learned about photometry, and I learned about AGI 32, and I learned about 3D animation, and I've learned how to sell that experience to that customer. We sold a lot of lights, and now in being here at Crestron, we've got a pretty strong roadmap to what we think is going to be the future in this, because this is a big deal, and controls are tied to it. It's tethered to it. All these manufacturers are playing in the space. If they don't have a control system, it's all over the board how it's going to happen. So a consistent deliverable is very important. So don't overpromise. Know what your deliverable is, and make sure that experience, that customer is going to be happy with what you give them.
Jerry?
Well, I would just say you have to do what the group all said here about when you decide to get in the business, you got to dive in. You can't dip your toe in the water. If you put a TV on the wrong spot, you can move it up 4 inches pretty easily. But if you put a wall washing light in the wrong spot, you are buying a new ceiling, right? But you have to go all in, and you don't have to buy a company that's in lighting like I did. You can work with a partner like David, and it sounds like his services. I wish they were there when I got into the business. Maybe they were 7 years ago. I got in 6, but I missed you. But in any case, When I first bought Wolfers, on the first day, my first 2 phone calls, the first one said I was a genius, and the second one said, "What are you doing?" And so I think I wasn't too sure where this would end, but I had the conviction that it was important to my customers, and it was an important direction for my business. And so it starts at the top in a company. You make the decision, and then you have to remake your company, form the partnerships, get committed to it, and know that you're going to learn over a decade, not 3 months. This is not, like adding another line to the mix. This is a new way of doing things, and it's deep, and it's complex, and it's rewarding, and it's fun, and it's a life journey. But there are a lot of people hesitating right now out of fear, as you said, David. There's nothing to be afraid of. Ultimately, the bigger fear is missing the opportunity. If you're in controls, you have to get into fixtures, or you're going to get out of controls. And I just think it's time to go all in. That's my advice.
David?
I would just say, now I'm scared to go into lighting, because of the potential risks. So there is a lot you need to learn, but I would say don't let that stop you from getting your feet wet. Don't let it stop you from going in. We've had the technology for 10 years, more or less. We've had the science for more than a decade. What we've been missing and why our homes are still done where the lighting decision is 2,700 degrees Kelvin or 3,000 degrees Kelvin, and do you want bronze or satin nickel or brass or whatever the color of the day is, those are the only lighting decisions that most people are given. The only reason it's still that way is because the lighting industry lacked people who knew how to take those things and put them together and make them work. And that's why this opportunity exists in the integration channel, is because you know how to do that. So while I look and I think, oh, wow, this is a heavy lift for an integrator, I think some of these folks started in car stereos, and they're not doing very much in car stereos anymore. You're smart people. You know how to change with the times. You know how to get into the new stuff. That's why you're here, and there's this awesome show and this awesome organization, because you do this. So I would say don't be paralyzed by fear. Jump in, because the opportunity is phenomenal.
If I would make a closing point, the reality is for lighting in the homes in America today, and what people get is a really, really low bar. You don't have to be a little bit of effort and commitment. You can up the game of what everybody has and still have a lot further to go. And I will tell you, I've brought a lot of smiles on the faces of my clients through my career, which is 8 tracks to apps, by the way, by putting in THX and surround sound and giving them the convenience of one button automation of their system. But I have never had the reaction that I have with people that I began delivering lighting and better lighting in their homes, because most people had never experienced it. And people are about their homes. They're about their art, their objects, how their home looks, and they notice it. And so I have clients that come up to me and say, we had no idea, and this was the most impactful thing of all the things that we did. Now, also, it was the most expensive, unbudgeted thing, because the builders and people don't have anything factored in more than a commodity can. But they didn't regret spending the money. And then ultimately, the builder got the message, I need to build in larger allowances for the lighting package. And that is occurring in the markets where this is happening. So the good thing is that it's not like you're getting in a category that's super mature and people are used to great stuff, and now you're doing it. It's pretty bad out there. And you don't have to be. I've always appreciated that mediocrity allowed me to look like a genius. There's a lot of mediocre stuff out there, and it is a journey, and you just need to get started. And your first job is going to be okay, and over time you're going to get better and better and better at doing it. So we have some time. Are there any questions? If there are, come up to the mic. If there aren't, that's cool too. So I'm going to go Bueller. Bueller? Anyone? Yeah, please. And you can direct it at any individual or ask the panel.
This is just for the panel generally. How do you enter this field without burning the bridges of your contractors, your electricians, these people, relationships you've built over time, and it's like you're going after their business?
That's a good question. I'll take a quick stab at that. When we first got into it, there was a lot of fear and music. And we had electricians that I had to sit down with before we worked with them who were afraid we were coming after them. And, you know, we found ways to deal with it. So you have to think of the different scenarios when you're getting into a job. Like, just like with a designer, is there a lighting designer on the job, or do they need help with design, or is the architect doing the design? You look at the electrician and the other partners the same way. Is it an influential electrician? How are the fixtures otherwise coming to the job? And to echo what Tom said, the way that they get there today is not very efficient. So just by giving a good quality service way to get fixtures to the job, you are adding value to your clients. But, you know, we have electricians that we partner with, and when they're on a job, we will wholesale fixtures to them, share the margin a little bit with them. You know, you'll find that electricians have a markup model, not a margin model typically, and their markup expectations can vary. But we found that, you know, by bringing an electrician, the right electrician in, and sharing them with them a little bit, made them partners, and they would bring us into jobs. Other electricians wouldn't care. And then there's occasional electricians who make a battle out of it, and we would choose our battles. So it's just relationships and navigating that. But I would encourage, you know, partnering with the ones who can bring you work and giving them a little bit of the action. You'll find that their economic model and yours can coexist, you know, when the opportunity presents itself.
Go ahead. You know, this is short and sweet. Become the knowledge base of what they don't like to do, and you'll find out real quick that electricians don't like running category cable, and they don't like running and they don't like network. If you become that source of knowledge for them, then you become their friend, and you fill that gap, and then figure out a way to share. You know, that was our whole, the way we went to market is we became that knowledge base that they didn't like panelized cabling, they didn't like network lighting, and they didn't like to do anything other than, you know, run a switch leg and deal with a 20 amp circuit. So become that gap and learn how to share in the profits, and they will be your friend. They will be your friend, and they'll call you on the next job and the next job, and you'll get on jobs that you didn't have to work to get on. So,
Any other questions? I wanted to get this on tape. You know, I'm a parent, and my daughter has followed me in this industry, and it's great to see these next generations. And she hates dad jokes, so I'm going to tell a dad joke and get it on this Zoom call here. So don't edit this, CE Pro, Emerald. When does a dad joke become a dad joke? When it becomes apparent. So with that, we're going to end this, and thank you very much. No need to applause, because we're going to pipe in, like, you know, a stadium of applause.
Yeah,
We'll cut that, we'll edit that in the end. So thank you for coming. Thanks for coming out to CEDIA, and thank Emerald and CEDIA for making this possible, and for Crestron for sponsoring this session. Thank you very much.